A community in the south of Poland had a difficult decision to make. The year was 1921, so it was just a few years after the end of World War I, and the devastation that that war had caused in that region. A Quaker woman, a Christian nurse, had dedicated her life to helping rebuild that community and serving the people of that region. And she had worked tirelessly and selflessly for these years after the war. And the community came to a crisis at the point of her death. Where would she be buried? You see, the whole region was Roman Catholic, and the only cemetery was the church cemetery. And there were rules, the church had to be clear that only baptized Catholics could be buried within the church cemetery because those were holy grounds, and only if you were baptized as a Catholic could the church be assured that you had your original guilt forgiven in baptism, and so it was reserved for Catholics. Now remember, this was 1921. So they did the only thing the rules let them do. They buried her just outside the cemetery. This didn't settle well with the people of that community. They understood that the institutional church had its rules about who could be in and who could be out, both in this life and the next. But later that night, the people of the community got together under the cloak of darkness, and they rewrote the rules. They moved the fence. And when morning broke, that precious Christian woman was now buried inside the cemetery, and nobody ever moved it again. This is the picture of what it means to be ministers of reconciliation. God has moved the fences for us in order to include us. We have fellowship with God not because of what we have done or failed to do, but because of who God is and what God has done in Jesus Christ. We then are called to follow in kind. We are to look for ways to have fellowship with one another. And by the way, it is so much sweeter when we do that with one another while we and they are still alive.